can we talk about the crime
Yeah,
in this
let's go
world?
to crime.
Right, okay, let's go into the crime. Terrorism, but fun, okay? That's what Pokemon is. It's colourful terrorism. You know, in Gen 1 and 2, we've got Team Rocket, who are, as you said, the Mafia. And these teams get progressively worse, can I say? So you've got the Mafia, your stereotypical soprano figures, the hey, and all of that. You've got Gen 3 and, again, Gen 6, so the remake, you have Team Aqua and Magma, who both want to induce a drought or a flood. They want to cover the region either in water or sunshine, which, again, eco-terrorism. Gen 4, they have a cultish team called Team Galactic, who want to control time and space. Interdimensional terrorists, I suppose.
Wow.
Generation 5, you have Team Plasma, who are like meant to be their version of PETA, and they are quite manipulative. They're like, oh, release your Pokemon, and the caveat behind that is, oh, it's because we want to take over the world, which I have to admit, they did that quite well in that one, but you're always going to get like Pokemon rights groups and things like that, and sweaty hikers trying to pull you into a Ferris wheel, which is an actual scene in Black and White. Trust me, look it up.
Wow.
Fresh with dialogue such as, oh, it's getting hot in here, boy. You're like, oh no, I want out. Let me out. So, Generation 6, we have Team Flare, which, while not as memorable, I think they want to cull a certain percent of the planet because they want to activate like a super weapon. Gen 7 isn't as bad, I will say. Gen 7's more like these kind of, like street thugs, and it's the same with Gen 8 because you've got Team Skull and Gen 7 with Sun and Moon. The only team that's really a threat is, I think it's the Aether Foundation, who they study aliens, and we will get on to the Ultra Beasts and things because they are nightmare fuel. Then, yeah, Generation 8, we've got, is it Team Yell in Sword and Shield?
I don't think I got as far as finding out the team, I have to admit.
They're not great. They're just like cheerleaders, essentially. They're useless. But also, if we want to go to the spin-offs, we have Team Snag'em in Pokemon Colosseum, who, as the name suggests, they steal Pokemon, and they have a machine you strap to your arm where you can actually steal other people's Pokemon. And you've got Team Cypher, who literally kidnap people and they genetically alter other Pokemon. Did I mention the kidnapping? Because there's a lot of that going on in Team Cypher, as well as genetics, as well as potential world domination. Where do you want to start, Adam? Which region would you like to start in?
That's really their big thing then, that is the kidnapping, Team Cypher. That's really what they're all about, I mean, along with the genetics and everything.
Well, I mean, see at the very beginning, the only reason I bring that up is because at the beginning, the only reason you meet your sidekick in the game is because they found a Skittle called, I think it's Rui, but you can change the name as you wish. They find a Skittle who can see shadow Pokemon, but the whole like gimmick of the game is only the Skittle can see shadow Pokemon, nobody else can. So it's like almost the perfect crime. But she goes to like a bad part of town and she points out and says, hey, that Pokemon looks weird. To which these thugs basically tie her up, shove her in a bag, and then try to like cart her off. And you're like, Jesus Christ, this game got dark. Like Pokemon Colosseum is a whole bag of worms on its own. Well, sorry, I'm not calling her a bag of worms. I just whole situation as a bag of worms. Where do you want to begin with crime in the Pokemon universe? So we're out for our movie, right?
So literally, right, okay, what you're telling me is all this time I've been panicking about being attacked by a Beedrill or like seeing Mr. Mime and not knowing how I'm going to react, when actually the thing that I need to be most worried about is being kidnapped or like getting caught up in like crime business. Is that what I really need to be concerned about?
Pretty much, yeah. Maybe not in the early regions. Fortunately, there's not a lot of kidnapping. In fact, no, sorry, I take that back. There's a lot of hostage situations. With Team Rocket, not only do they take over a office building, which completely, that would screw me over because I work in an office, and they also take over a radio tower in Generation 2 with silver, gold and crystal. So yeah, there's a lot of hostage taking going on as well.
What do you do in a Pokemon hostage situation? Is there like an equivalent of SWAT?
Actually, see, to be fair, and again, this isn't explained in the games, but there was like a spin-off series called, I want to say Pokemon Origins, but I could be wrong. It was like these kind of shorts that kind of developed the world, and they are pretty cool, I will grant it that. But there's one where it's like the police are trying to raid Viridian Gym. They've got like like a Machamp bursting through the walls, and they've got like Growlithe burning down the wall. It's actually pretty cool. See if there was a game like that. And I think, I can't remember if I'm remembering this right, but I think I've got Magnemites that like open the locks on the door. It's really goddamn cool. Like, see if you had a game like that where it was just like Rainbow Six Pikachu. I would play it.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, because you could send like you could send your Magnemites to like cut the power, the phone lines, and everything like that. That'd be good. Okay, so we've been taken hostage, but then the Pokemon SWAT have come and they've saved us. We're out and free. So you kind of touched on this briefly, but like if you'd be able to elaborate a bit more, what's our like mode of transportation? Do we have to use Pokemon for that as well?
It depends what region you're in, because if you're in the region in Sun and Moon, you get something called Ride Pokemon. And Ride Pokemon, so can I just like completely off topic here, but there's a particular moment where you find one of the Ride Pokemon in a cemetery, and it's carrying this old woman. The reason he's carrying this old woman in a cemetery is because she explains to you, oh, my Machamp, which I'm presuming he was driving the car, because this is the only way I can think of how this Machamp and this guy got into a car crash, and it's said that the guy died, the husband of the woman died. So ever since then, like before the crash, the husband put the Machamp in a Pokeball. So ever since then, the Machamp's always hated Pokeball, so he tossed his Pokeball away. So that implies some kind of sentience or autonomy amongst Pokemon. Like if they decide, oh, I don't want to be in a Pokeball, they could just crush it like that.
That is terrifying, though, because as you say, what are you going to do to stop a Machamp? Yeah, get in your Pokeball. And as you say, what? A Machamp's just going to fold you up like cheap suit.
Do you know what? It's like really bad quality control in the Pokemon universe. In the game, you're supposed to like fight the gyms and you're supposed to defeat the Elite Four. And as a gameplay mechanic, it makes sense that the more badges you get, the more powerful Pokemon will obey you. In the real world, if we were living in that world, could you just buy a badge off of Etsy? Or is it like a spray they give you? Like,
how does a Pokemon tell as well? Like, I presume there's like the equivalent of scouts in the Pokemon universe. Can I just go up to like a Venusaur and be like, oh, like I have my first aid badge here and my knot tying badge, obey me? Is it going to like recognize that? Or
in the anime, it's implied that there's like more gyms out there. You know,
Okay,
like
yeah.
obviously in the games it's 8 gyms, that's your lot. But in the anime, it's like, oh, you've got this gym that's trying to be legit and trying to get his license or something. Who from? I don't know. The Pokemon League? And it's like, who's the Pokemon League? Oh, it's the Elite Four plus the champion. So it's like, I don't know. Centralised power to decide who gets to own a business.
Is that why there's so much crime here? Like,
okay, here's a question for you. I have got a thought-out answer for this, but if you were the head of a criminal team, how would you take over the Pokemon world?
ooh, good question. So it seems that we're lacking central authority here. Is it terrible? Like, tell me if I'm a terrible... Well, I think I'm a terrible person, but tell me how terrible a person I am. And my literal thought was, if I could find a way to gather the Elite Four together... and toss a Pineco into the room. Does that just wipe out any government and it's just pure anarchy?
Are you seriously taking the beginning of Johnny English
I think
to heart?
I think I just didn't.
Or just stick a pine cone in a coffin?
Oh, I can't believe my first thing was murder the Elite Four. Like, rather... Oh, I'm a terrible person. Please, like, stop me from saying any more. How would you, like, take over?
Mine's would be very boring, and I had a very long discussion about this, both with myself and with a very vexed partner, about how I would take over the Pokemon world. It would be very boring, but I feel as if at the very beginning, you know, you have to get money, so, like, how do you get money? You would have to, like, beat up the same child, like, every day, or the same row of children, as it were, or maybe trainers, you know, maybe the odd cue ball or two, get their money, you know, accumulate a small wealth, get a posse together, and then kind of work your way and try and weasel your way into, because I'm going to assume that there's only like one major company producing like Pokeballs and things like that.
Seems fair.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they're probably different region-based ones, but I get the feeling there's like a kind of like a Disney one. You know, you've got Silphco in Saffron City, but I feel as if they're probably like an umbrella corporation or
subsidiary or whatever.
So you would try and get your way into there and try and get into like a very prominent position, and then you would essentially seize the means of production. So what I'm saying is you would need to seize the Pokeballs, right? So if you manage to manufacture, if you manage to manufacture like a
Tsunami 2022.
if you manage to like manufacture a shortage of Pokeballs, right, and you control the means of production here, all you have to worry about are the weirdos who can like talk to Pokemon and get them to follow in their own free will. So you don't got to worry about them. So you can just send your goons out, which at this point they've got very well tailored suits because you're running a company at this point. You don't want them to look like street thugs. No. We've got dapper gentlemen to sort out that business. And then, I'm assuming there would be like a kind of subsidiary of that company that, controls the potion market and the healing items. So basically what I would do, and this is going to sound very much like a parallel to real life, so I apologise in advance. But what I would do is I would start like a war of information, okay? So I would slant the Pokemon centres and I would say, oh, your Pokemon will only get stronger if, you heal them on the battlefield with like our items, whereas they're going to get like weak and mushy. Because obviously level-headed people, they're not going to believe that, okay? But it's like the strong idiots who are going to think, yeah, I want a strong Pokemon. And that's the whole ethos of Pokemon trainers who want to, they want to become strong, they want to fight everything. They'll accept anything you say because you're a reputable business. They bought a potion from you once, and it used to be 200 Pokedollars, now it's 1,000. And if you can think of the parallel, well done, because I'm not going to say it out loud. But then the only thing you would have to worry about is like 10-year-olds trying to break in to stop your plan.
That's the one flaw you haven't factored in. The 10-year-old's going to mess you up.
Just build a gate or something. I don't know. A knee-high gate. Like, put a tree, because let's face it, you're never going to go into an enemy base with the move cut, are you? So you can't get by a nice firm bonsai.
I knew we should have hired a better security guard than that bonsai tree.
It's just a bonsai with a security cap on it. And then that's it. You would take over the world. And of course, you would get like some splinter groups who would be like, oh, we're going to take over the planet with Mewtwo, Lugia, whatever legendary Pokemon you want to throw in there. And of course, with the shortage of Pokeballs, people would be demanding Pokeballs to try and catch this creature to stop the devastation. And then all the cards are in your hand. So tell me, Adam, am I a psychopath?
You have thought that through so well. I mean, I still like my plan of just chucking a pine cone to the Elite Four like coffee meeting, but I cannot fault for pure like genius mustache twirling planning. That is one of the greatest master plans I've ever heard. What you just laid out. Apart from 10-year-olds like messing it up, I can see no other flaws.
I mean, other than like someone getting wise. I mean, you could just throw them out a window.
Exactly right as well. But like you say about people getting wise, like people are probably too busy worried. Like, oh God, did I turn my Charmander off before I left home today? Or is it going to burn my house down? Nobody has time to see your Machiavellian machinations like occurring.
Now all I need is a team name. I mean, Team Pokeball Grabbers is probably...
That sounds like your team's into something else, I'm going to be honest.
Seize the balls of production.
I love it. Oh my God.
Yeah, the PR department got fired recently. I just want to point that out. We're sorting through some teething issues.
We'll come up with a rebrand for it. Oh my God. I love how when we left the house we were trying to just find Moo Moo Milk, and now you've like plotted a way to like seize power in the Pokemon universe.
Well, let's say it failed and that 10-year-old bet me up in the first hurdle.
Oh no.
So we're back to Moo Moo Milk territory.